Good morning, everyone. Welcome to an episode of Coffee Break with CARD, La Hora del Cafecito's new sister show. My name is Lourdes Quiñones, and I would like to welcome you to the show. Coffee Break with CARD is a program dedicated to all those in our community who are living with autism, to their family members, and all those who support them. So come on in and join us at the table and let us know that you're here. You can leave us a comment in the section below and let us know if you're having a cup of coffee with us. We'd love to say hello to you this morning. In today's program, we are going to be talking about how to discuss the autism diagnosis with your autistic child and or adult, including some helpful advice and resources. So join us. We have a lot to talk about. Before we get started again, I'd like to introduce your hostesses for today. As I mentioned before, my name is Lourdes Quiñones. I am a CARD consultant assigned to the primary age group here at CARD, and professionally, I am a pediatric physical therapist as well as a special education teacher. I'm joined today by my colleague, Jasmine Castellano. Buenos dias, Jasmine.
Buenos dias, Lourdes. Good morning, everyone.
And Olivia McDonald.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Our hostess, usual hostess, Maggie Aldana couldn't join us today. She'll be out for a few more weeks. She has a lot of compromises with her kids coming up. So we just want to say and send her our love. Okay. But as you know, Jasmine Castellano is an excellent professional in the field of mental health, and she is a CARD consultant assigned to the youth group and the middle, the ages and middle and young adults. And she's the mother of three, one of whom is diagnosed with autism. So welcome, Jasmine.
Thank you, Lourdes.
And Olivia McDonald is an excellent professional in the field of public health, and she is a CARD consultant assigned to the primary age group, just like me. And she is the mother of a beautiful baby boy who is now a toddler and also talking a lot. So surprised this morning. Yeah, talkie. And she has a younger brother who's an adult and is diagnosed with autism. So welcome, Olivia.
Thank you, Lourdes.
All right. So before we get started, I'd like to review the rules that we want to adhere to during this programming to ensure a safe environment for us all. So be sure to keep an open mind, a positive attitude, and to use respectful language. And as we move on, Olivia, before we get started, would you let us know if we have people to say hello to this morning?
We do. I want to say good morning to Veronica, who left us a nice comment saying that this was kind of exactly what she was looking for. So really happy to be helping you with that.
Nice.
Also, good morning to Chris and to our number one fan, Philomena.
Thank you. And Veronica, I'm so glad that that we're able to touch on a subject that you're interested in. So join us. I hope to hear from you during the show. All right. So again, as I mentioned before, if you're just joining us in today's program, we're going to be talking about how to discuss the autism diagnosis with your autistic child and or adult, depending on when you're having this conversation. And we're also going to be including some helpful advice and resources. So join us. We have a lot to talk about. Let's get started. I'm going to be starting the questions, and Olivia is going to be answering your questions today. All right. So first question to you, Olivia, is why is it important for us as parents to discuss or explain the diagnosis of autism with our loved ones with autism? Or our child with autism.
Yeah. So first of all, it's generally recommended to be honest with our children. It helps with creating that foundation of trust. However, one of the main reasons is that autistic children or teens are going to realize they are different compared to their neurotypical peers. Even if they seem to be in their own little world or not interested in socializing, they still notice things around them. They might not know how to communicate that effectively, but they know. It can also help reduce self-stigma. It's better that a child learns about autism in a positive and supportive manner from a trusted and loving adult than possibly through ignorant comments made by others. It's also an important first step in developing self-advocacy skills. As children become older, they'll need to take over advocating for themselves. And even adults who are not able to be completely legally independent, say they have guardian advocacy, for example, they still need self-advocacy skills too. By not letting them know of their diagnosis, caregivers are not giving them a chance to learn what supports could help them or the choice of whether to disclose their diagnosis to others. And finally, it's important for all children to learn about disabilities and the diversity of existence, and this includes autistic children. I think sometimes the assumption is made that just because someone is autistic, they're going to understand all autistic people. And we know the autism spectrum is very broad and multifaceted. And there's a reason there's that expression of if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. So.
And that is very correct, Olivia. And I can provide like a little bit of examples with my own child. So ever since she was little, probably like 9, 10 years old, she asked me what it is autism. And I explained to her. I used videos. It's what helped me with her. Videos is what helped me better than books. So video, it has to be cartoons videos. She can connect with the cartoons. So I searched that on YouTube, and I look at it first to make sure that it's something reliable, that is providing the correct information and it's appropriate for her and her age. And I presented to her, I showed her the video, and then we talk about if she has any questions, or I can point out parts of the video and what did you notice about this, what did you notice about that, what this one said, and we talk about it and we guide the information. And when the question is answered, and if she's done and she's satisfied, she's done and satisfied. The important thing is to answer that question, whatever question they have, specifically, no more, no less, just specifically what they're asking for. And after that, it can pass, I don't know, 1 month, 2 months, 3 years, and out of the blue, man, is a mom, what is it? What is this? What about autism? So then we provide information, of course, a little bit more in depth and more mature, because they are more mature now. So, and again, we answered what they are asking for, and we provide that information that is reliable and research based, so they can be well informed.
Yeah. And I know you know, in like our own conversations that we've had, Yasmin, that you mentioned that you've had to have some conversations too about how autism impacts them versus how it impacts other people, like friends who also have autism.
Yes, I mean, my child, they are in a school for kids that most of their friends are on the spectrums, and pretty much around the same type of level. So my child doesn't know about too much about what is the real world, if we can put it like that, being in a public school, and being with a lot of other kids that are neurotypical. My kid has kids, has friends that are neurotypical as well, but it's not the majority. And so far so good. I mean, they're very open. They play together. They have that very similar interest, But it's a different environment when you are one to one, when it's in a whole school. So and yeah, so she and like you were saying, Olivia, I mean, they can realize, they notice the difference. They do, even if they cannot speak, even if they can't. You see that they are not very social, for example. that they are in their own little world, but they understand and they know the difference. They know that I want to play, but for whatever reason, it seems like I cannot connect with other kids my age. Um, so they are very well aware of their challenges, you know. So it is very important to always explain to them what it is, and also bring it in a very unique, personalized way. This is who you are, you know. These are your needs. These are your strengths, and more so, allow them when they get a little bit older. Allow them, so guide them, so they can they identify their own strengths and their own challenges as well. You know.
Yeah, I know we're going to talk a little bit more about some of those things too, but yeah, those are good. Those are good pieces of advice.
And also, Olivia, at what age should you explain to an autistic child what is autism?
So, like, you know, most things when it comes to autism, this is going to vary with each child. So, for example, if they also have an intellectual disability, the child may be a bit older since they need to catch up developmentally. Their individual challenges in understanding other people's perspective may also make it challenging to understand how they view the world is different from how neurotypical people generally view or perceive things. And then there are other autistic children who may be able to understand a very basic explanation when they're 3 to 4 years old, like their neurotypical peers. It's I know that can be really challenging for parents sometimes, that it's not such a clear-cut age or for them to know, but you know, that I think, you know, that's, and so I think, you know, trusting in those instincts to figure out what age makes sense for them.
And they will let you know. They will ask, Mom, what is that of autism? What do you mean by autistic? I heard you at the doctor talking about autism. Were you talking about me? What is that? What do I have? You know, or Mom, why?
Yeah, that sometimes happens too.
Yeah. So and they will ask. If they are verbal, they will ask you, and that's your opportunity to talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, how do you explain to a child with autism about the diagnosis? What the diagnosis is?
Yeah. So, depending on when a child receives a diagnosis and their capability to understand a simple explanation at the time, the professional determining the autism diagnosis may be able to help facilitate that conversation. You know, they can act as that autism expert, while like the parent is taking more of that emotional supportive role. If that isn't an option, my first recommendation to parents or caregivers is for them to do their own research about autism and for them to feel comfortable with their own understanding of it. That way you're better able to answer any questions that the child or teenager may have. There are a lot of great resources out there to help. And then my second piece of advice is for them to ask themselves, you know, how do you typically teach new concepts to your child? Is it typically formal sit-down conversations, or is it more casually as, you know, circumstances present opportunities, like, you know, after reading a book where the character has autism or they're experiencing a certain life event or condition? The other thing to keep in mind is that they don't, you know, parents or caregivers don't have to explain everything all at once. You know, kind of like what Yasmin had already mentioned. It's probably going to be it's going to be a process, especially if the child is younger. It's likely they will start with a very simple explanation, and then as the child gets older, you know, more details are going to be shared. It's going to be a series of conversations, not a one-time thing. And then, you know, personally, I think two of the most important points to communicate are that first, autism is a neurological difference, that it isn't a disease or something to be cured. and most importantly, that the child is loved and accepted for who they are.
And that is very, very important. A child at any age, but more so during, teenagers, they need to feel loved. They need to feel accepted. They need to feel that they belong, not only with the family, but with their friends, peers. And that is very, very important. It helps a lot with their self-confidence and self-esteem. And knowing who they are, knowing what they have, knowing what their skills, their strengths, and the challenges are, it is very, very important. Another thing is that um, as parents, try to avoid using autism or any other condition, ADHD or any other even disabilities that the child might have as an excuse for not doing this, not doing that. Of course, we are aware that if the child is struggling with fine motor skills, and cannot get dressed by himself or herself, and we need help, of course, we're going to help that person. But if by helping you, if I know that you are able at least to lift the shirt up and attempt to put your arm, to go through to put on your shirt, I'm gonna challenge you to at least do that because I already know that's something you're being able to do. So always challenge that your child based on their strengths and abilities that they have, push a little bit more, but also making sure, being aware of their challenges and difficulties that they can have, but never use it as an excuse. Like, uh, my child, uh, she knows she has autism and other disabilities that she has, not only mentally but also physically, but that's not an excuse. I mean, and in her mind, she's going to college, like I explained before, she's going to have this, she's going to have that, and she's just seeing how her older siblings is following that path, and that's what she's going to do, So it's not an excuse for her not to achieve her goals and dreams and to have an independent living. Now, of course, as a mother, we know I'm very well aware what her challenges are. So there's a plan B under the table that they don't need to know. She doesn't need to know about the plan B. Uh, excuse me. So that the autism and the disability, it won't be used as an excuse like you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you are, no. On the contrary, I'm going to push you to be the best that you can be within the abilities that you have.
Yeah, and I wanted to also share a comment that Elena made earlier. I think when we were talking about, the idea of that there's a wide variety of experiences on the autism spectrum. So thank you for sharing that, Elena.
That is true.
And that is very true, and that's why it is very important to keep. I believe that education is very powerful, and teaching our kids to advocate for themselves, and also us as parents advocate and educate, not only advocate but also educate about autism, and keep fighting. This is just the beginning. Um, we still have to fight for an equity and inclusive environment for our people with autism.
I think you may have the next question, Yasmin.
Yeah.
Oh yes, and Olivia, are there any particular resources that you would recommend to help with having these conversations?
Yes. So we have a number of great resources in our virtual library that I wanted to highlight. So we have books geared for adults like Sincerely Your Autistic Child, What People on the Autism Spectrum Wish Their Parents Knew About Growing Up, Acceptance and Identity, and Temple Grandin's The Way I See It. as well as kids books featuring characters with autism that could be used to help start a conversation. The CDC website, Autism Speaks, and Autism Society of America are also some good resources to become more familiar with what is autism, generally. And then I'm going to share a few links in the comment section to some articles I came across specifically on the topic of explaining an autism diagnosis. I also wanted to share that, the consultants here at CARD, we can also help provide guidance and specific resources for your particular situation. Or, Yasmin, you mentioned using videos, visual tools and visual supports can be a really good facilitator for trying to explain this really kind of abstract concept. So, and those are also things that the consultants can help you with. So,
and we can also provide trainings, not only to like the school, teachers, professionals, organizations, but also to the family. I have provided training to one dad or one mom or mom and dad or grandma who's taking care of the person with autism, and that's it. Just her or just him, so we can also provide that.
Yes. So my question also has to do with, what if it's not going well? What if during the conversation things are not going well?
So sometimes a child or teenager may not understand what you're trying to explain. You may need to think of another way of explaining the concept or an alternative method of facilitating that conversation. It could also be that they aren't developmentally ready, and that's okay. You could always try, when they're older. And then sometimes it is possible that the child or teenager could have a negative emotional response to the news. And it might be helpful in those circumstances to seek the help of a mental health provider familiar with autism to help them process the news. And again, it's likely going to be its own journey with like really understanding what it means and really, kind of accepting that news. So, I think even if it doesn't go well initially, to not give up hope that there would be a good outcome to it. I don't think that fear of a possible negative, like, initial response to kind of hold you back from having that conversation. And because oftentimes it can also be a really positive thing of like, oh, that's why, things making sense for that child or teenager. So.
And then, like you're saying, Olivia, it depends on the age. Like mine was, and we know since she was a baby, so she grew up with that. But there's a different ball game when you are 17, and out of the blue moon, they drop the bomb on you, like, oh, by the way, you have autism. Like, what? Yes, it's a totally different ball game. Or if you are an adult, that I have had adults that are in their 30s and like, hey, what am I going to do with this now? So yes, it's totally different. It's very confusing. It's scary. I don't know what it is. What do I make sense? What do you mean what my needs are? I don't even know what you're talking about. It is a lot. And seeing a mental health professional is very, very helpful to work on that process, in the process of acceptance. I mean, it's like whenever somebody tells you about any type of health condition, or anyone tells you about, there's a process of grievance, there's a process of acceptance, there's a process of, and it's important for that person to visit a mental health professional to deal with it. And also as a parents, be there, be supportive. We need to educate ourselves. Like I got with my child, not only with the autism part of it, which I'm familiar with, but that was like an easy one. I knew before the diagnosis, But with other diagnoses that are medical conditions that I have no idea, and they tell you, oh, your child has this. I'm like, what? And what does that mean? What it is? So let me educate myself. Let me read about research. Let me see if there's support groups online that I can join. Let me ask other parents, hey, what is this? What does it mean? And we educate ourselves with other parents that are in the on similar situations with their kids. Google Google is not always the best resource of information, but there's website like John Hopkins, the Mayo Clinic, universities that provide also reliable information. So those the information that you need to read when you're Googling something. And of course, that's what we are here for. We are here for you. So your consultant or us consultants here in CARD, that we can also provide you with information and education, and we can also educate and assist the teenager or the adult that got a diagnosis.
So for those of you who are watching us, if you have any comments or questions, let us know in the comments section below, and we will be sure to try to answer your questions before we come off the air. Or if you're watching this after we get off the air, we'll be sure to check back with you and try to answer you on the comments section, or perhaps in another future program. If we do create another future program, we'll be sure to give you credit if it's based on the comments or the questions that you leave us, and we'll be sure to give you credit for giving us those ideas on the air in the future program that we create. Okay, so be sure. Talking about that, Olivia, are there any comments or someone that we need to say hello before we go off the air?
Yeah, so unfortunately it gets cut off a little bit, but let me see. Elena mentioned how she shared the information. Says with her son, she said autism is neurological. It has to do with the brain and how it processes information. Each person's brain is like a computer encoded with information, and all code is not the same. Processors are not the same, graphics cards not the same. The speaker, keyboard, or microphone may or may not work. The computers are different and operate function in their own way. And just remember, patience is always needed, and all computers are valuable and should be treated. I think she was saying treated well. So she was explaining she did this because he's into computers. So I think, yeah, using the child's special interest is a really great way of facilitating that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Elena.
That was a great idea. Wonderful.
Great idea.
Yeah, I've also heard the comparison of autism and neurotypical people of, like a Microsoft computer trying to have conversations with an Apple computer. Sometimes it's a little bumpy, but with a little finessing, it works well. So.
Awesome idea.
That was a great idea, and I think teens can relate a lot with that.
Yeah,
that is great. That is great. I like it.
That's a great idea. So thank you for sharing that. Well, thank you for doing that. So before we go off the air, we just want to first of all thank Olivia for bringing us this wonderful information, doing all the legwork. So thank you for doing that. We also wanted to remind you that we will be coming on the air every other week. So our next time on the air will be March 10th. Every other week we're coming on the air. So be sure to join us on March 10th. We're coming on around 10:45 a.m. So join us again here. And then we also wanted to ask you for a little favor. It's that to please go on the link that we are going to be adding down here so that you can, it's a short survey, about 6 questions real quick. Just let us know how we're doing. It's the way that we can justify the time that it takes us to put this kind of programming together, to be on the air with you. It doesn't take very long, just a few points. Give us a rating. Even if you've done it before, every time we come on the air, we need one of those. It's the way, again, that we justify it. So thank you for doing that, taking a few seconds to do that, okay? So that takes us off the air. Thank you so much. So be sure to join us in about 2 weeks. But before we go, don't forget to give us a like, share this page and this video with those that you know could benefit from this kind of information. And be sure to meet us here on March 10th around 10:45 so that we can, with your cup of coffee, so that we can spill the beans on important topics related to autism. But until then, we want to wish you
good vibes and hot coffee.
See you then. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.